happening right now. NBA owners discussing the future of the league and the possible return of the Supersonics.
We would be looking at moving the start of term by probably a full week.
Plus, as the union continues to dig in its heels, PCC may have to push back the start of its spring quarter, where negotiations stand this afternoon.
We were dealing with an emergency earlier.
No, man, you did the best you could.
We're learning more about that deadly plane crash at New York's LaGuardia Airport, what an air traffic controller said just moments before the deadly accident. Plus, as airport security lines spiral out of control, a possible breakthrough on funding in Washington, D.C. But first, taking a live look from our Rose City sky cams, some raindrops on the lens there, where we're tracking a steady band of rain that's moving through this afternoon. Thank you for joining us at noon. I'm Tim Gordon. Let's kick it over to meteorologist Rod Hill, who's live on the weather deck, tracking the timing on this. Hey, Rod.
You know, there's something magical about being outdoors if you're undercover, which I am, but you can hear the rain, you can see it, and it's actually kind of, pleasant, really. So we're up here on the weather deck, brought to you by Rick's Custom Fencing and Decking, and yes, we have the roof over me. It's a moderate rain here in downtown right now. Currently not that breezy, but we've seen south winds gusting as high as 32 miles per hour already today, racing up the valley with this rain band that's coming through. So here it is on radar, and it is, as Tim mentioned, a solid, steady rain from the coast right now, pushing across I-5, Longview, Portland, Vancouver, Salem, with the rain out into the West Gorge, starting to move into Hood River and also up into the Mount Hood area. This will be all rain for Cascade travel today, all rain for Cascade travel. You can see it on the radar right there. There are some heavier rain pockets mixed in the yellow areas, but so far in Portland, it's been mostly gentle to moderate. And here are the winds that are definitely noticeable. Currently gusting south winds to 30 miles per hour out at PDX. And here are some other ones, 28 miles per hour, in fact, in Eugene. There are the clouds from Schnookwan's Casino Resort Camera in Lincoln City, 50 degrees with the rain at the coast. And there are the wet bricks. Where are we, temperature? Oh my goodness. We're now down to 56. Tim, it was 60 degrees last hour. I think we're going to spend the rest of today in the low to mid 50s as the rain gets a little bit heavier in the coming hours to come. For right now, back to you. We'll track the end of this rain coming up and lowering snow levels in your complete forecast.
Okay, we'll see you then. Thanks, Rod. Well, today, NBA owners begin their two-day meeting in New York. They are expected to vote on expanding the league to Seattle and Las Vegas to begin play in 2028. A Seattle team would likely play inside Climate Pledge Arena. That's where the Seattle Kraken ownership group recently took majority control, a move seen as positioning Seattle for a potential return, as it essentially gives them more ammo for an NBA bid. Since the arena has been open, there's been an NBA locker room waiting in Climate Pledge.
Could be a big moment forthcoming, and we're going to be ready. If you look at the stars, maybe they're aligning.
Analysts expect bids for a new team could fetch upwards of $10 billion. And it's not just expansion that owners will discuss. According to The Athletic, NBA owners could also soon approve the Blazers' new ownership group right here in Portland. Well, Portland Community College could be forced to push back the start of the spring quarter as staff members continue to strike and representatives from the college and unions failed to reach an agreement last night. Now tensions are rising. In fact, two unions at PCC have just filed an unfair labor practice against the college. Thomas Schultz joins us from PCC in North Portland.
In the complaint, two unions allege that the college has tried to dissuade workers from union activities. They also claim that administrators have unlawfully told union members to tell supervisors if they plan to go on strike. This escalation comes as the strike has persisted for almost 2 weeks now. On Monday, PCC upped its offer to include a 5% wage hike over the next 2 years. This is the first time employees at an Oregon community college have ever hit the picket lines. More than 2,000 faculty and staff are striking for better pay and say PCC is prioritizing special projects. PCC says they're dealing with lower enrollment. Still, students have been unable to take final exams or register for spring courses, which were set to begin March 30th. Without a deal, PCC administrators told us last week they'll likely have to delay the start of the spring quarter by a week.
We would be looking at moving the start of term by probably a full week, because we would still need time once folks are back from the strike to finish out winter term.
We reached out to the school about these unfair labor practice claims. They told us they've received notification of the complaint and will submit a response in the next 2 weeks. Though the longer this strike and the picketing persist, the more possibly that the spring quarter is delayed. And it's not just class time that's delayed here. Student financial aid payments are too, until this strike wraps up. In North Portland, Thomas Schultz, KGW News.
Meanwhile, Portland Public Schools and the Teachers Union have agreed to shorten the school year to make up for a budget shortfall. Teachers will take 4 furlough days, 2 in May and 2 in June. The school year will now end a few days early on June 5th. Portland Public Schools' mid-year budget gap has grown to $14 million. The district is also facing another $50 million deficit next school year. Well, here's a look at some national headlines this afternoon. The investigation is expanding into how a passenger jet crashed into a fire truck on a runway at LaGuardia Airport in New York. Investigators are reviewing air traffic control audio to determine why the truck was on the runway despite last-second orders to stop. The pilot and co-pilot were killed on that plane, and more than 40 others were injured, with 9 still hospitalized. Surveillance video captured the moment the plane slammed into that truck at over 100 miles per hour. Air traffic control audio shows a controller had cleared the fire truck to cross the runway before suddenly telling it to stop. But then you can hear the air traffic controller appear to take the blame for the incident.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, crossing 4 at Delta.
Stop. Truck 1, stop. We were dealing with an emergency earlier. I messed up.
No, man, you did the best you could.
Yeah, so hard to hear. The runway where it happened will remain closed until Friday. Iran's military command vows it will fight, quote, until complete victory. Meanwhile, President Trump is claiming progress in negotiations with Iranian leaders to end the fighting. But Iran has denied having any direct talks with the U.S. Sources tell NBC News that Pakistan is now acting as a go-between for the U.S. and Iran, with a potential in-person meeting soon. Well, as the war stretches on, higher gas prices are now starting to impact the Northwest's fishing and seafood industries. That includes things like filling up boats to head out to sea or fueling up trucks to drive fresh seafood inland. Local businesses tell us suppliers are raising their prices, some by $15 to $20 per delivery, which can add up to hundreds of dollars a week. And it's hurting fishermen, too, who worry things could get worse.
The worst case scenario is we might see seafood at a very, very premier price here in the not too distant future. But again, some of our fishermen are having to balance, is it even worth going out right now with the returns they're getting on it? So we could have a seafood shortage somewhere down the road here.
We also spoke with restaurant owners who say it's difficult to run a business with the fluctuations in gas prices and growing uncertainty. And here's the latest on gas prices. Regular gasoline now averages $3.97 a gallon in the U.S. That's the highest since August of 2022. Here in Oregon, a gallon of regular will run you an average of $4.87, and over in Washington, it's up to $5.29. Well, the Homeland Security shutdown is now more than a month old, with unpaid TSA agents quitting or calling out. ICE agents are now patrolling some of the nation's busiest airports, though none so far at PDX. But there are new signs. Congress and the White House may finally reach a deal. NBC's Alice Barr reports from D.C.
Overnight, a potential breakthrough to break up those massively long airport security lines after a small group of Senate Republicans met with President Trump on a plan to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Alabama Senator Katie Britt saying a solution may be at hand.
I am going to be working through the night, would be my guess. So hopefully we can figure out how I'm going.
For more than a month, Democrats have refused to put more money into ICE and Border Patrol without major changes to immigration enforcement operations following the fatal shootings of 2 American citizens. They're pushing to separate that money from the rest of DHS to fund agencies like FEMA and TSA now.
All Donald Trump has to say is yes.
President Trump has been pressuring Republicans to tie DHS funding to stiffer voter ID laws under the Save America Act.
Don't make any deal on anything unless you include voter ID.
That's a non-starter for Democrats, and now overnight, the Senate's top Democrats saying
both sides are talking.
the pressure is mounting, with security lines growing by the day as TSA agents working without pay yet again quit and call out in record numbers.
You couldn't find the end of the line because there was just people everywhere.
And now at more than a dozen of the nation's busiest airports, ICE agents coming in for backup security, checking IDs and handling crowd control, according to a senior ICE official. But without training on airport X-ray machines, it's unclear how much they can do to clear the lines and the growing frustration. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.